What I learned over the last couple of days is important for everybody that's watching CNBC.
And that is?
I think that what you're seeing is essentially a pushback against the establishment in a really important way. You know, coming out of 2008, what happened was Wall Street took an enormous amount of risk, and they left retail as the bag holder. And a lot of these kids were in grade school and high school when that happened. They lost their homes, their parents lost their jobs, and they've always wondered, like, why did those folks get bailed out for taking enormous amounts of risk and nobody helped and showed up to help my family? Instead of having idea dinners or, you know, quiet, whispered conversations amongst hedge funds in the Hamptons, these kids had the courage to do it transparently in a forum. Who was right on Tesla? I'll tell you who was right. Every single retail investor. I was right. Elon Musk was right. Let me tell you who was wrong. Every single hedge fund. Name after name when it comes to innovation, when it comes to growth, when it comes to people trying to do fundamentally useful things in the world. If it doesn't fit into the mold that Wall Street wants, they try to organize against it. And there has been pushback after pushback after pushback in individual names, and this is yet another form of pushback. And all I'm trying to say is the mechanics of how Wall Street has worked. And again, I wish you would ask this detailed question. Why is it allowed for somebody running a hedge fund to basically claim that they are market neutral, but be levered up? They take a $10 billion fund, and their prime brokers allow them to run $100 billion of notional exposure. Who thinks that that's fair? It's not fair to the retail investor, because when that blows up and a $100 billion hole exists in a fund, which, by the way, this is exactly what happened in 2008, the government bails them out. Who is the government? All of us. So, you know, retail has been the bag holder before. Retail hasn't caused these things before. Hedge funds have caused these things before. So if you're going to talk about taking the gun away from the baby, let's make sure we figure out who the baby is. People can do fundamental research, come to a point of view that's diametrically opposed to organized capital, and they can be right. And I'm allowed to be on the right side of that. You know, it's not my job to go and defend a bunch of, you know, highly compensated hedge fund managers against losses. And just the fact that for one time those folks lost, we can bellyache and cry on national television, to me is a joke. There's a lot of kids and a lot of people on Wall Street Bets who have made money to pay off their mortgage. I read about a post yesterday of a kid that was able to pay off his entire student loans and posted it. That's amazing progress. You just said it's not different. You're right. Idea dinners, that concept has existed for decades on Wall Street, where people get together in closed rooms behind closed doors and usher around names of companies, and they coalesce and decide to cooperate together. The guys on Wall Street Bets just do it in the public completely transparently. In my opinion, that takes a lot more courage, because you could actually be wrong. Somebody can actually say, hey, listen, what you said made completely no sense whatsoever. And so what is the difference? In my opinion, this is the modern day instantiation of that dynamic, just writ large and at scale.
The only thing I'm concerned about is that there are inevitably going to be people who get hurt. I'm not talking about hedge fund managers. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people who follow people into the trade, who think that this stock is going to continue to go up, because that's what they've been conditioned to think in the pandemic.
What should we do?
Because all stocks go up, apparently.
What should we do? Not allow folks. Here's what will happen if you follow your logic, then you'll say, you know what? Retail doesn't know what they're doing. I think you're wrong. Then the thing will be retail shouldn't be allowed to participate in the stock market. I think you're wrong. And then you know what will happen, Scott? The inequality gap will grow and grow and grow. Because then what are they supposed to do then? Buy an ETF, a passive fund? They can't buy into hedge funds because the rules don't allow them to. So now systematically what you've done is you entrench poverty. If you are going to so massively oversell a company to the extent that you're selling 40 more shares of that company that don't exist, and all of a sudden other folks are like, hey, wait a minute, this is going to get squeezed, and they buy it, that's just a smart trade. Retail saw it, Wall Street missed it, and they paid the price. The lack of integrity in the system is the precursor that caused GameStop to be sold short 136%, and for people to try to pile on and destroy a company in front of our eyes. That to me feels wrong. That feels pretty un-American, if you ask me. I think GameStop is a reasonable business. You know, I think what they do is reasonable. And so the fact that they shouldn't be allowed to exist because all of a sudden, like, we decide that they should be obliterated into the ground.
Well, they should be allowed to exist. They should be allowed to exist at whatever their stock should be valued at based on what their earnings are. And the stock was like
the free market
$17, $18 not that long ago.
Who says that? Who says that? Do you want to make the same argument about Tesla? It's gone 10x in a few months. You don't know what it's worth. Let's be honest. Fix how risk-taking happens at the institutional level. Fix the precondition. Fix the ability for these stocks to be so massively shorted in the first place. Change the business model of funds so that they're not forced to be these small net, highly levered funds. Change the leverage ratios. Those are all institutional decisions. But don't all of a sudden look at a short squeeze where money is being made by retail and all of a sudden say, hey, they could and may be the bag holder in the future, so let's make sure that they can never participate in the future. That's crazy. But you can't all of a sudden have your cake and eat it too. Let's have hedge funds operate in the shadows, but let's then basically lambast Wall Street bets because they actually have the courage to write their stuff down publicly where anybody can see it.
I mean, look, my point is that I'm not lambasting anybody, okay? I'm glad these people are making money. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Let's face it. No, you're not, okay? And, you know, the person that was on before you, no, she's not. And that's the issue. It's like because the rules are changing underfoot, people don't like that.
Get the fucking money.